All right, well, I guess that just broke the ice right there, right? So let's just make this a conversation. So we're doing our second show, and I had a couple topics that kind of struck me throughout the weekend because we had Bellator on Friday and we had the UFC on Saturday. Did you have a chance to watch the UFC?
I saw all of it.
You saw all
Yeah,
of it.
watched as much as I could, and some good fights, some interesting things happened. But
Yeah.
overall, it's a good show.
Hey, the one thing I wanted to was going to talk to you about was um like fighters and their legacies. And Chad Mendes just retired, and for me, I was just trying to figure out what do you like for me, like what I remember the most with him is his scraps with Jose Aldo. Especially, I felt like in the first one he was having a good performance, was able to try to get the work done. Jose caught him with a beautiful knee and put him out. The second fight was a way different fight, and it was just a stylistically. I thought out of all the guys to potentially beat him, I thought it was going to be Chad, was going to be Jose Aldo, and and then he got in, some later on had some issues with commissions and stuff. But what's gonna be your how are you gonna remember him?
Chad, I look at Chad, and it was how explosive he was. He was so strong, such a good wrestler at the time, and then he became very powerful with his strikes. And when you looked at that second fight with Aldo, it was so close. And there was that one shot at the end of the round that might have been what actually changed that fight around. And he got right at the bell. He got hit with a shot that hurt him and put him down. That might have been what kept him from taking the title that night.
Yeah.
He was a special fighter. I did his fight against Frankie Edgar, and in that one, he got hit with a shot that put him out, and he got hit and he came back, but he was out at that on that shot. So he was a dynamic guy, and I love the fact that when he took the fight against McGregor on a couple weeks' notice, and he always stood up and he just played the part of being just a good fighter, a guy that you could count on, that was going to give you everything that he had in the fight. And in that fight against McGregor, I thought he gave everything he had. He was 2 weeks of training.
Yeah.
Come on, man.
Yeah.
That's not easy to do against a good fighter, and he gave it everything he had. I will always look back at Chad Mendes as one of the guys that you could always count on was going to give you everything he had, and he was great.
He's just one of those good guys. He kind of honestly, I follow him on Instagram, and we've had a couple of chances to talk, and I never really hung out with him a whole lot. Maybe like once or twice in Vegas, at some of the events for the summits and stuff for the UFC. But he reminds me a little bit of Matt Hughes, that wholesome, good guy. It just seems seemed like a good guy, like all around, just fun to be around, very nice. Always seemed like he was smiling, and I don't know, like I had a different relationship with Matt Hughes. Matt Hughes, I didn't develop that relationship until later on, where Matt was to me was just he was a good guy, fun to be around. Same thing now with Chad. After I go back and I've seen him around in some of the circuit fights here, smaller shows in Northern California. And he's always a pleasure to be around, man. He's just always smiling, always saying hi, and he kind of fits right into that mold of the Uriah Faber, that team Alpha Male. When they were all together as a cohesive unit, they were so fun to be around. Watching them run through, the Mandalay Bay or the MGM as a group of just buddies, just all really good guys, and they all just you could tell they were all got along. Things eventually faded, and we end up where we are now. But I don't know. I feel like he's one of those guys. I think had he had another 2 weeks on top of that, I think he would have beat Connor. And
He had a good chance.
I think there
Good
was
chance.
yeah, I would have loved to have seen that rematch. I felt bad that he was never given that opportunity, because that was the fight. Because everyone had talked about Conor not ever fighting a good wrestler. Well, he fought him, but he fought him on 10 days notice or whatever, 2 weeks notice. And then, Conor had never fought another really good wrestler up until he fought Khabib really after that. So, I would really just say it was really just Chad, and Chad taking the fight on short notice. It really, to me, wasn't fair. I would have loved to have seen that fight be ran back when he had a full camp or at least 4 weeks, to prepare for him.
Yeah. What I honestly believe it could have made a difference in that fight, because you look at what Chad was doing, he just got tired, and I don't care who you are, you get tired. Things are going to go in a bad way for you because you wait, you hesitate, you try to take an extra breath instead of taking that shot that you can throw. And that's just the way it is when you take that fight on short notice. I don't blame him for taking it, and I love the fact that he stood up. But like you said, when you compare him to Matt Hughes, that's a good one because a lot of people don't know what it's like when you become that fighter and you're out there and the public then knows you and stuff. And some guys don't respond to it, in a bad way. They just don't care about it. Matt never cared about it, and I don't think Chad ever cared about it. He liked being by himself. He liked going out in the woods. He liked hunting, same as Matt did. And he liked being in the gym with the guys. And past that, he didn't care about fighting. He really didn't. He didn't care about what the auxiliary things that come with it. Didn't matter to him, and that's probably one of the reasons I liked him.
Yeah, I have to agree with you. 100%. To me, he's just gonna leave. I think he leaves behind a legacy of just being a good guy, and on top of that, and like you said, someone who always brought it in the cage. It was always a pleasure watching him fight. So explosive, so dynamic, and then especially as he started learning how to strike better and wasn't just a wrestler, he became a lot more aggressive. His tenacity was just unmatched, really, in a lot of things, especially when his conditioning was on point. But to touch on that, though, the one thing that I was thinking, though, which kind of relates to the TJ Dillashaw thing, is he came off that long suspension, Chad did, and you could just tell that, like, he had a couple fights, but he never really got back into the groove of fighting consistently. And do you think that maybe that's something we may see from TJ when he comes back? I mean, a long time. 2 years is a long time.
Man, it's such a long time. And then people get this thing like, oh, it's only 2 years. 2 years. I always say that, if you have a 10-year career, you've done really well in MMA. 10 years is a long time. Now, there's guys that have longer careers, obviously. Some that'll even double that. But it's a matter of taking 2 years off of, that's a fifth of your career in the way I look at it, more than a fifth. And it's just so hard to know how someone's going to be, because what will happen is if you're that guy that, you get that suspension, so then you've got to figure out a way to make money. And fighting isn't the way to make money. You can't do it then. So you're doing things for your sponsors, and you're not in the gym. So you're not improving. You're not getting any better. You're not doing the things that you would normally be doing if you were still fighting. And that can make the difference. There's a very small percentage between good and great. There really is. There's just not that much. And it's, guys that work their asses off to get there attain that greatness. And when you're great and then you're not doing those same things, you're going to drop down. And when you're facing other great fighters, that can be the whole thing right there, and the difference of you getting that win or not. And so it really depends on what TJ is doing. Is he in the gym training with guys? Is he in the gym helping guys? He's got Juan Archuleta that's got a title fight. Is he going to be in the gym with Juan Archuleta training, and doing things the right way with him? That's going to say a lot about what happens when that suspension is up.
Well, that was going to be into my next point is Bellator announced their featherweight tournament. You guys saw you
not bad, huh?
Yeah, it looks absolutely amazing. It's going to be crazy. I got really excited when I heard the first fight basically was going to be Patricio and Juan Archuleta. But then you have these other fights that are already announced. So you have Bellator on September 7th. You got Strauss versus Campos, Curran versus Boric, Sanchez.
God, that's a good fight.
That's going to be a good fight.
That's a good fight, dude. I cannot wait for that fight.
And you have Sanchez versus Claxton. You got Cecilia versus Carvalho. You've got Pitbull and Archuleta, Caldwell versus Corrales, Weichel versus Rogers, and McKee versus Karahanyan. What's the fight outside of the title fight, obviously? What's the fight that stands out to you the most?
Well, there's two. And, I will say it because, God, they're all good. I mean, come on. They're all so good. But, I talked about the Pat Curran, fight. That against Adam Borch, man, that's a good fight. Because look at least when, Pat got back in, and he got back in against AJ McKee, and, AJ got that win, but there was some things that Pat did that were good. There's some things he has to shore up and take care of, but he's fighting a guy in Adam Borch who just got that win against Aaron Pico, and he's so good. But there's a fight in there that Daniel Weichel against Sal Rogers.
Mm-hmm.
And look at it. No, people don't know who Sal Rogers is. Josh, you know who he is. I know who he is, but I know he is because look at he was on the Ultimate Fighter and he beat everybody. In fact, Ryan Hall just had a fight in Sacramento. Ryan Hall, I did his fight against Sal Rogers in the Ultimate Fighter, and Sal Rogers beat Ryan Hall.
Yeah.
And then beat everybody else there was. And then Ryan Hall got the opportunity to come back and fight for that title, I guess, if you want to call it there, to win the Ultimate Fighter show because Sal Rogers' visa, he had visa problems. He couldn't get back in the country. And he hasn't been, able to come out and fight the guys that he was fighting before in the U.S. Now he's back. And I will tell you, he is super strong. He is fast. He's good on his feet. He's got good wrestling. That's a great matchup with him and Daniel Weichel. That is such a good fight. I cannot wait to see that fight.
Yeah, that's going to be good. I mean, just the power and the strength that he has and what he possesses with his wrestling, his credentials in wrestling, just everything about him just says he's a true fighter, like to the top to the bottom. He's very well rounded. Did his fight in where were we at in Birmingham? I think I did his fight there. I think against Aiden Lee, and I think they had a fantastic fight. What a fight! And that fight definitely excites me. For me, though, from what I understand, I talked to Scott Coker last night. I was with him, and he said that Juan Archuleta asked to have Patricio for the first round. He wanted this fight, but why? Like, why? For me, in my mind, I was thinking those two would meet in the finals.
Yeah, I can understand you looking at it that way, but I want you to think about this. If you're Juan Archuleta and you have gone through 18 straight opponents and you've been asking, you wanted Darian Caldwell, then Darian Caldwell goes and fights Horiguchi, and then you know what? You end up fighting the ex-champion in Dantas and you knock him out. Why wait? He's saying, hey, I want to fight the champion now. I'm wanting the tournament. I want to fight the champion. I want to beat the champion, and I want to move on as the champion in that tournament. That's what makes Juan Archuleta who he is. And that's why I love watching him. He's a believer in himself. That is a huge, factor in fighting. You know it. I know it. Confidence is everything. And right now, both of those guys, Pitbull, he's confident right now. Look at his last fight against Chandler and what happened. And look at Archuleta against Dantas. Both guys are confident. Both believe that they're going to win. And that's what you want to see in that kind of title fight.
Yeah. No, I agree 100%. Yeah, the first fight that I saw that kind of stood out to me though was the Curran and Borics fight because that reason why that stood out to me is not so much just stylistically for that fight, but was I look back at the Pico fight and the Borics fight and I was like, was that the fight to see who got into this tournament?
I think it was.
Because now Pico's not in the tournament, and I'm thinking to myself, there goes your opportunity and your chance to win $1 million. Because you have...
I think Scott Coker said, all right, you know what? I got an idea, and I don't know. I have slots, and I don't have, I have 16. That's a lot, but I have a lot more than 16 fighters at featherweight, and I need to put the best guys in here. Well, we're going to find out who's the best, and Adam Borics won that fight, and he's in the tournament, and that's the right thing to do.
Yeah, him versus Curran Pico versus Curran would have been interesting. Just the experience of Curran, that would have been an interesting fight. But I think Borics.
I would like to see. I would have loved to see it, and I understand why he's not. But look at who just recently signed with Bellator at featherweight is Robin van Rossmeulen. Man, I would have loved to see Robin in there, but I mean, you got to give him a chance. He's coming over from Glory in the kickboxing world and coming into MMA, so I understand why they did it. I would have loved to have seen him, maybe matched up in there.
Got it. The other thing to touch on something else though was you had a chance to watch the UFC this last weekend.
Yep. Yeah.
There was. I wanted to get this would be more of your area of expertise versus.
I have no area of expertise
as a fighter.
You know that.
I'm thinking to myself, when I see Aspen Ladd stand on that scale, like, how is the California State Athletic Commission letting that woman fight?
Well, and I can tell you this, and I can't get into detail on it, but I do know that it didn't really have to do so much with her weight. There was some other factors involved with it. The doctor was there. The doctor told the athletic commission, who he's working for, said, "Hey, look at, she's not that dehydrated. She's pretty hydrated. She's got other issues right now, and that was causing her a problem because of the cut." And so she was trying to work through those problems, and it was a bad situation for her as far as the way she was feeling and having, certain things going on. But it really wasn't so much the water or the weight that she had lost.
Yeah.
So that's why she was allowed to fight.
Yeah, I've seen this a couple of times with females because I've trained a couple female boxers for like Golden Gloves, things like that. They have their monthly cycle, and next thing you know, they try to dehydrate just a little bit. They're retaining water, but they also start to cramp a lot more heavily, like in the abdomen area, and it just makes it harder for them to stand upright. So when she's stepping on the scale, if that was the issue, then I can understand completely what the issue was.
Yeah, that was the issue right there. I don't want to get into, poor Aspen's, personal life, but it really wasn't the water and the weight. It was she was having other issues, and so, you gotta look at everything. And guys don't have to go through certain things.
No.
Girls do, and sometimes I look at them, and it's such a hard position to be in because it is hard to lose the weight if you're on that.
Yeah.
And then if you've done that, and then you can get into this where you start having body cramps that, they're almost debilitating. So I felt bad for her.
Yeah, not that I would know what that feels like.
I don't either, and I don't want to.
I can't imagine, honestly, especially after losing the weight and then trying to stand up in front of all those people and get on the scale. No, man, I tip my hat to all the females that have to go through that. Like I said, I've trained a couple girl boxers, and they've just so happened to be boxing or having to make weight right on their cycle, and it's not easy. It's brutal. Yeah, they're brutal, and I've seen it before with what's it called? When Gina Carano and Cyborg had fought a long time ago, one of them was going through the same issue at that time and having a hard time making the weight, and they were struggling to get the weight down. So I remember having that conversation back in the Strikeforce days. So to touch on more of that with Aspen Ladd, in giving your referee's expert opinion, I wanted to talk to you. I felt that when I watched the UFC, that there was a ton of early stoppages. Is that something that the commissions are starting now to do, or is it just happened to be that that group that night was just they saw something? Maybe they made it early stoppages, or the way the fighters were falling, it looked like it was early. I don't know. What do you think?
Well, it comes down to just about most commissions, most big commissions, they're going to have almost a stated policy of, hey, we want you to stop it one punch early rather than one punch late. Okay, and that's because, they're there saying we don't want to have the fighter hurt. If you look at them, you're saying they're not able to protect themselves, then we want you to stop that fight. Don't let them get hit again. So, to say, I talked to Beltran about the Uriah Faber versus Ricky Simon fight, and he told me, and sometimes you don't know. It's hard to see because on tape, watching on TV, I can't really see Ricky go out. And Mike tells me, John, he went out. He got hit with a shot, and I see him go out, and I'm dropping down, and he got hit again, and he came right back. And that happens.
Yes, I know.
I had that one fight. I had Nick Diaz against Paul Daly. And if I ever wished that a camera was in place to see a guy's face, it was in that fight, because in that one, Paul Daly gets hit with just one right hand after he'd been hit with a lot of shots and had made it through everything. Mm-hmm. And he's on the ground. He gets hit with one right hand, and his right eye is looking straight up at Nick, and his left eye just does a left-hand turn off to the side of his head. I stopped the fight, and people are like, why did you stop? And I'm like, dude, I'm telling you, his eye just turned in his head. And it's like, you wish you could show people those things of what you see that sometimes the camera just doesn't pick up.
That I tell people this all the time. That was the greatest one-round fight I'd ever seen in my life.
Yep.
The greatest one-round fight I'd ever seen in my life.
I agree. That is the best round ever in MMA overall.
Yep. Hands down. Yeah, I wasn't sure if it was something that maybe the commissions are trying to watch more of, maybe in California. I wasn't sure. It just felt like there was a lot of early stoppages. Jermaine's fight seemed like it was stopped a little early. I could see why because Aspen Ladd went down on all fours. She didn't really respond until
You
she
know,
kind of got shoved
I'm
over
gonna
to
tell
her
you this,
back.
and when you're watching that fight, and this, I tell other referees this all the time, and it's hard because when you're Herb, you're seeing she got hit with a huge right hand, and Jermaine can swat for a girl. I mean, she's beating up guys.
She knocked a guy out in boxing.
Damn straight. So I mean, she can swat, and when Aspen goes down, there comes times when, as the referee inside, you see the person, they're done.
Yeah.
And there's times when you sit there, and I've talked to you about this. I've got to let you take one more.
Yep.
Because I got to let everyone see that, you're not going to come back from this. And they get hit and they go either unconscious, and everyone goes, oh, great job. And you go, I know I should have stopped that one earlier because they didn't need to take that one. And that's really what you had with her stoppage is, Herb just didn't let her take that one. And in the end, there's going to be a lot of people saying, oh, you know what, that was an early stop. And it was a little bit early. It was early as far as, you're looking, could he have let it go longer? He could have. But for her health, for her career, in the end, she wasn't going to make it past what happened after that big right hand. And I would just say that, you know what, just on to the next. It's okay.
Does Jermaine beat Amanda Nunes?
Wow, I tell you what, if you're looking for someone in the stand-up, and I've always said, everything depends upon, how someone fights. But I believe that Jermaine and Amanda fought before. I think I was there.
Yeah.
And Amanda in that fight took Jermaine to the ground and beat her up on the ground.
Yeah.
And, Jermaine at the time didn't have much of a ground game. And if they were going to stand and bang it out, I'll tell you what, right now, Amanda Nunes is on fire.
Yeah.
And Jermaine is just as good as you can get in the stand-up. That's a 50-50 toss. If you bring in Amanda trying to utilize all the skills she has and, take her to the ground at times when there's opportunities, I still say Amanda wins that fight.
I think Amanda wins if she fights smart, like you're saying. The question is, have the big wins and the big knockouts of like over Cyborg, has it gotten to her head? Has she now all of a sudden started thinking that she is able to just knock everybody out? And this is somebody I think with Jermaine, sure, she could potentially knock her out, but she's going to take some big shots in the process, and she may get finished
I agree
herself.
with you.
She can make it a lot safer fight if she takes the fight to the ground and just follows the game plan from the first time. I don't think she's somebody that she wants to stand with.
No, I mean, if you're looking and you're saying, well, where do I have a distinct advantage in this fight? Look at, Amanda's got a distinct advantage on the ground, and so why not utilize that? But look at, Jermaine has been working on her ground game for a long time now. It's not the same as back in, I'm trying to guess when they fought the first time was probably 2015, 16.
2013.
Was it 2013?
13, yeah.
Damn, I'm that old. Okay.
Yeah, it's coming through on your beard.
Oh man, tell me about it. Yeah, I don't know. I'm seeing all these old pictures of everyone coming out today, man. It's great. Everyone's looking as old as me.
I gotta try that new app. Makes us old.
Yep. I'm gonna definitely do one for you there, Josh, because you need that.
Yeah. So I gotta get to your level, right?
Yeah, dude, you got to have all the wrinkles, man. You can't have that smooth skin.
There was two that I liked. I like Ariel Hawani's, and I liked Cowboys looked really good.
Bisping's look good. I like Bisping.
Oh, I didn't see Bisping's.
Oh, it looked really good, man. I was like, damn, Bisping looks good old. He almost looks distinct. He looks like a Sean Connery, man.
Oh, you know what? I actually did see it. Yes. Yeah, he does look good. With his little suit vest on. Yeah, he looks good. Wow, he actually does look like a Sean Connery. That's pretty good. Yeah, he looks good. Look, Uriah looks old and weathered and beat up.
Uriah looks like a boot.
Oh man, that's so funny. These apps are great. All these new face swaps and all this other stuff that they're doing.
God,
yeah, there's
crazy.
Ariel's. Ariel's just looks the same with a gray beard. All right, before we wrap this up, but I didn't get a chance to ask you this. Chad Mendes, Hall of Fame, yes or no?
I'm going to tell you no, and it's not, outstanding fighter. Has just had a very, very good career. But I can tell you, I've had a lot of friends that were outstanding fighters, be it boxing or MMA. And I can start naming off guys that fought against the very best and always seem to come up just that little bit short against the very best, and they never made it to any Hall of Fame. And I would say that great fighter. I just don't think he makes it in that.
Do you?
And if you're talking about the UFC Hall of Fame, there's a lot of guys that need to be in that aren't so far. So he would be a little bit down the list in my voting. That's all.
Would you put him in that Kenny Florian category? The guy that always kind of just came up a little bit short in certain areas.
Yeah. Kenny is a great example of a dynamite fighter, and Kenny was a lot better than people realize.
No, he was good.
But Kenny always had that fight where and Dana used to say stuff like, "Oh, he shits the bed when he gets to the championship fight." He didn't. He just met guys that at the time, caused him problems. He had the championship fight against Sean Shirk. He lost to Diego Sanchez in the Ultimate Fighter, but he also had some great fights. He had a great fight against Gomi. He had some big wins in his career. So, Kenny Florian was a dynamite fighter. Chad Mendes, and they're both riding that fence on that Hall of Fame. I think Kenny's got the Hall of Fame thing because Dana's going to put all the Ultimate Fighter 1 guys in there, and that's fine. If that's what you're going to do, no problem. Kenny makes it. Great.
Yep. Yeah, no complaints there. No complaints.
So were you able to see any of the prelim fights from Friday at the WinStar?
No, I was not.
Oh, dude, did you miss some fights?
Which one?
Well, for one, let's see. Jordan Young looked fantastic against Joel Bauman. Joel Bauman was a wrestler from Minnesota and stuff, but Joel came out after him and was just putting it on, trying to go after him. Jordan, nice and relaxed, 10-0 in his career, and gets an opportunity, locks up a triangle and chokes him out. Just a beautiful career, as far as step up. As far as the competition was good, he looked great doing it. But Leslie Smith had a fight against Sinead Kavanaugh.
Yes.
Leslie Smith is a gangster.
Yes,
I'm just telling you. She is full on OG. She didn't take a backward step. And Sinead is throwing everything she has. Sinead was getting exhausted, moving backwards, trying to say, what is going to stop this girl? What a fight between the both of them. Incredible. And a great win for Leslie. She got I'm not sure if it was a split decision or a unanimous, but it was well-deserved. She went out there and just slung leather, man. She was going after it. She was great.
What do you think? I mean, she comes from Gilbert's camp. Gilbert Melendez's camp at Scrap Pack. Trains with Kerry Melendez. I mean, they have a good group of people there. I don't know if Gil's going to continue fighting, but he's going to focus. It seems like he's going to focus a lot on building his team. Leslie Smith being the new addition to the Bellator family. So I think she was doing really well in the UFC before they released her. Now she's here with us. She's been tainted, I think, a little bit with the way that people perceive her and talk about her because of all the commission stuff, or not commission stuff, but the
Project Spearhead.
Yeah, what was it?
Project Spearhead, the union.
Yeah. So for the fighters unions and stuff, she's been trying to spearhead all that, and it kind of backfired, I think, on her for the UFC and kind of her fighting career. So she had some time off, and I think now she understands, I think, how much she missed it. Sure, it's good in pushing for those things, but I think also too, you can't let it get in the way of what your ultimate goal is, and that's to take care of yourself. You can't you can't lead the way if you're not in that cage fighting, and that's the hardest part. If you're on the outside, that's why every fighter that tries to do it after they retire, they're saying, "Oh, they're old and they're bitter," and you've got to try and do it while you're still a big name in the sport, and
which isn't easy.
And the reason, it's not easy. You got to keep doing it while you're in the cage, but you just do it in a very professional way. Not so much like this is the way it should be, because the promotions don't want to hear that. I think the fan, well, not just the promotions. I think the fans don't want to hear it either. They're like, they understand that we're trying to, the fighters are trying to fight for, I guess you would say, better pay and, and better rights and all these other things. But at the end of the day, people that tune in, they want to see people fight. And if you're winning, I've said this before a hundred times, winning solves everything. Okay, you can
Yes, it
ask.
does.
You can ask Kobe Bryant. You can ask Tiger Woods. You start winning, people forget about everything you did in the past. Winning solves everything.
And
So
sometimes with that winning, it's, achieving certain things in the sport and getting to, that point where you get a title.
Yep.
Now everyone's going to start to listen to you, and no one's going to get rid of you just because they're mad at you. You're the champ, and
Yep.
you have that platform that's going to help whatever cause that you think is important for you to push.
exactly, I agree. Well, I'm glad we got her. I was gonna wrap it up there, but there's one thing that's really been kind of on my mind is
Let's go.
Van Steenis versus Leon Edwards. It has not been announced, but I do know they've been back and forth bantering with each other.
Okay,
On Twitter.
question. Stop. You said Leon Edwards, or you talking Fabian Edwards?
Fabian Edwards. Sorry, did I just say that? Sorry. Fabian Edwards and Van Steenis.
Man, if that fight happens, that is an awesome matchup. Van Steenis against Fabian Edwards would be incredible because they're just both dynamite fighters.
Fabian Edwards, though, the little bit of inexperience. Last fight didn't look all that great. Looked okay, but didn't look as dynamic as he normally does. I mean, but he's also been getting people out of there in the first round. So it's not fair to judge him by the fact that he went the distance. He went the distance with a tough opponent. It's not fair to do that. But Van Steenis took him the first fight. Van Steenis' fight, he actually went through a phase in that first round where he was trying to figure out his last opponent, was able to figure him out, and they got into the second round, was able to put him away. So Van Steenis, though, with the experience training with Gegard, high-level guys that have fought all around the world, would you say right now the experience level would go towards Van Steenis?
I would. Honestly, right now, I would look and say, look at Van Steenis and getting rid of Mike Shipman the way he did.
Yep.
Okay. Shipman's tough. Shipman had won 13 fights in a row, and hadn't lost since his very first fight in MMA. And you look at that fight with Costello and the way Costello just nice and calm gets against the fence, the way he set up the elbow and then finished it off. Fabian is an explosive fighter, and he's going to give everyone trouble. But, Van Steenis has fought, guys like Chris Honeycutt and Shipman, and it's been going up as far as his competition, who he's been facing, and all of that tough competition only makes you better.
Yeah.
And I'm not going to say that, anything bad about Fabian and the guys he's been fighting. He's had a couple of, tough fights. The last one he had, that kid was really tough. He just wasn't all that technically able to keep up with Fabian, and Fabian just tried to keep him at a distance. But that's a hell of a matchup. And look, if Fabian Edwards can knock out anybody, and Van Steenis, he's human. He could get knocked out, no doubt. But I'd say the overall game right now, I would give Van Steenis a little bit of the edge.
Gotcha. I'm excited. Hopefully that fight comes to fruition, and obviously it'll probably be on the European series, so I will be there cage side.
I don't want it to be in the European series.
I bet you don't. All right, well, hey, I'm going to wrap this, and like I said, we're doing this now. It's called Weighing In, and we're just going to be doing short little 30-minute clips of us just chatting it up. This one ran a lot smoother than the last one.
All right, that's good.
All right, bud. What do you got coming up? We have Connecticut end of August.
We have Connecticut end of August. I got to go shoot some stuff for Bellator here in a couple of weeks, and I got to do the Association of Boxing Commissions has its annual conference. So I'm going to go after that for a couple of days and help teach some stuff, and then get ready for Connecticut, which it's got all kinds of heavyweights. There's a couple of big fights in there, so should be an interesting night.
It's always fun when the heavyweights get in there.
Yep, you never know what's going to happen.
No, it all ends in a blink of an eye. All right, my man. I'll chat with you soon, and we'll keep in touch. I'll see you next week.
All right, brother. You take care of yourself. Go teach those kids, man.
Yes. Take it easy, bud.
See you later.
Bye.